If your portfolio is over $250,000 and you aren't hedged, you are sitting on a ticking time bomb. Markets are at all-time highs, but history shows, you know what comes next: volatility and increased risk. A 10% allocation to gold and silver can help hedge uncertainty and protect your wealth. Noble Gold Investments makes it easy to hedge your portfolio with institutional-grade gold and silver. Right now, every qualified investment will receive a free 10-ounce gold coin and protect your portfolio today. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com.
This is a very big crowd, considering the primary is still 16 months away? You know why? Because our movement will not slow down. It's bigger than an election. It's going to keep on going and going and going. It's bigger than just November. You see, the media, they're confused. They think, why are the crowds getting bigger? You know, we go to these college campuses and they go from 2,000 to 3,000 to 4,000 students that want MAGA hats and that are registering to vote and that are conservatives. And it's because this was never about an election. These elections are steps towards an ultimate goal. They are steps on a journey to take back America and make America great again. It is bigger than an election. And Arizona has played a central part in that story. Arizona is where all the fun, the drama, the ups and the downs happen. The first ever Trump rally happened in Phoenix, Arizona. President Donald Trump came up on stage. There was no such thing as a MAGA rally. He just came up on stage and started talking. All of a sudden, they realized they needed a bigger ballroom. It was at the Phoenix Convention Center. Who was there? Who was at that MAGA rally? Now, to be honest, I've seen a little bit of fibbing when people say. It was kind of like being like, yeah, I was at the World Series when the Diamondbacks won. No, you weren't. You were watching it on TV. It's okay. We were all at the MAGA rally when Trump came to Phoenix because in some ways it was this larger-than-life experience where this guy talked about a couple issues that you were not allowed to talk about, specifically that our country was being invaded by a foreign power and our leaders were allowing it to happen. You were not allowed to say that before Donald Trump. You were not allowed to say that our sovereignty in this state was being diluted, was being destroyed, was being diminished, and we were supposed to act as if this was a good thing. In fact, the Republican leadership class of this state, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, of a generation prior, they told you it was a good thing. They said, no, it's great. It helps, the golf courses run and the restaurants stay open. Is that Sheriff Joe that I see? The great Sheriff Joe. Stand up, Sheriff Joe. Let's honor Sheriff Joe. Is he not the greatest? And Sheriff Joe stood on that stage with President Donald Trump when few people would. And President Trump knew it instinctively, and all the Republican experts in this state were quick to go write op-eds and disavow President Trump's hateful rhetoric when it came to immigration. You see, but what President Trump did was multifold, and we're living through some of the most exciting and transformational history, and you get to play a part, not as a spectator, but as a participant. So when President Trump was here at the first ever MAGA rally, he set forth a vision. 10 years ago, everybody, we are coming on the 10-year anniversary of President Donald Trump with the first ever MAGA rally. And he put forward a vision. It's very simple. The people are in charge, not unelected bureaucrats. When you're invaded, you should stop it. It's bad to make your jobs go overseas for no good reason. We're not going to declare wars that we cannot win for 20 plus years, and that we, as the American people, are going to take back our government from a bipartisan uniparty of Republicans and Democrats that are consistently lying to us and making the country weaker. He set forth that vision 10 years ago here in this state. 10 years ago. And this state has been the central player in the Trump story, because this was the state where you had so many Republicans say, I don't support President Trump. But you know what was so good about that? Is we found out they weren't actually Republicans all along. They exposed themselves. They were using the Republican label to get your vote. They were using the Republican name to get your support, but they weren't actually going to D.C. to go fight for your values. Jeff Flake, John McCain. And they were going to D.C. and you were voting for them, and you're like, wait a second, why is the border still open? We can't talk about that because it's racist. We can't talk about the fact that our wages aren't going up, and that men that work for a living, that shower before work and shower after work, that are forklift operators and waiters, and that are driving Ubers, their wages are not keeping up with inflation, and things are getting more expensive. Like, no, it's okay. It's actually the GDP is growing. And President Trump's like, no, that's actually a bad deal. I'm going to fight for those people. And that journey was set. And the ups and the downs throughout Arizona. You remember then, of course, President Trump on that triumphant night in 2016 when we beat Hillary Clinton, and he did an unusual thing. When he won the president, I mean, we all remember that night. Was that not one of the greatest nights? And then he did something very unusual. He actually did what he said he was going to do. He secured the southern border, and he cut taxes. He made the economy great. He gave the Border Patrol their support. There's Art Del Cuerto. Art, stand up. Don't we have Border Patrols back, don't we, everybody? The great Border Patrol. And we saw this unfold, and we were so confused because we were used to politicians saying one thing, doing another. And we were kind of like really disoriented, like, wait a second, is he actually going through the checklist of everything he said he was going to do? And then the empire struck back. They spied on him. They took out Michael Flynn, Russiagate, and all of a sudden this presidency that was roaring with the will of the American people he had to fight for his life on a daily basis. Every day he had to wake up and try to stop the leakers in his own administration and stop the people listening to his phone calls and stop his own FBI from trying to take him out. Twice impeached, but he never gave up. And then, of course, Arizona, always a central player in the story. Now, I want you to remember where you were on November 2020 election night. Hey, no, it's important to remember. Remember, the Bible says over and over, remember, 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 for a reason, because memory leads towards constructive action. And we remember what happened. All of a sudden, we're like, wait a second, why did you call Arizona after like 15 minutes? Who remembers this? And see, you all remember that. And I was in the White House when that happened. It was just beyond perplexing and animating, and it pissed us off. And I hate to use that language, but that's what it was. Like, wait a second. State 48, the frontier state, like all of a sudden we're voting for a Democrat that doesn't even know his own name? And then all of a sudden Arizona became the central player. And we all know what was happening and all of that. And then they did not stop. The regime struck back. And many of the speakers you heard from here today, this current attorney general, who's a disaster, by the way, and we're going to get rid of her big time. I'm telling you right now, we're going to fire her. She's a disaster. Remember, the lawfare that they used against President Trump was tested and perfected here in the state of Arizona. They indicted our COO here at Turning Point Action, Tyler Boyer, because he was an alternate elector. Anthony Kern, I see many people, and they're still facing these charges right now. And the Arizona grassroots, you guys had a decision to make. And here's where the story continued and continued, because last November, despite every name they called you, and they tried to take out President Trump, he was facing 700 years in federal prison. They tried to kill him twice, and only by the grace of God, that bullet skimmed an ear, and he was able to rise and say, fight, fight, fight. They tried to take his business empire away from him. They tried to ridicule him and humiliate him. And all of a sudden, despite switching candidates, and we all of a sudden had to run up against Kamala Harris, and we were told she's the most popular person ever, and apparently that there was like this packed crowd in Glendale, like, wait a second, who are these people exactly? You decided to tune out the noise from the mainstream media and stay disciplined and stay focused. And Arizona was the best performing swing state this last November out of all 7 swing states, a nearly 200,000 vote victory for President Donald Trump. And it felt so amazing and so vindicating, didn't it? All of that was worth it because the 2024 election was about so much stuff. It was about inflation, about the border, but it was also about who's in charge of the country. Fundamentally, that was the question. Who runs the country? Does James Comey run the country? Does Valerie Jarrett run the country? Or do the American people run the country? And That was what this last election was about. And Arizona just happens to be the place where all of this is happening. And here I'm to tell you today, to remind you, to encourage you, the story is not over. The story continues. What started here in Arizona back 10 years ago is still continuing, because if it's just about getting Trump elected as the president, don't get me wrong, praise God Almighty it happened, and it doesn't materialize in our own home, then that's just a short-lived moment. But we're here about building a movement. And that is why we are here today, and why we at Turning Point so decisively are going all in for a true conservative. Because it's time for us to not just make America great again, but make Arizona great again, and make Andy Biggs the next governor of this great state. And that is exactly why Donald Trump has endorsed Andy Biggs, because Andy's been a fighter on the border. Andy has been a fighter on every major issue. Andy is unafraid to challenge leadership and not just go with the flow. And boy, do we need that here in the state of Arizona. Because President Trump is fighting hard. And look, Border Patrol, they're doing an amazing job. We got to find you more stuff to do. There's no one coming across the border anymore. I get these messages from Border Patrol agents. They say, look, my Tetra score is very good, but I'm kidding. But when Andy Biggs says, so help me God, Andy Biggs will pick up the phone and say, Mr. President, how can I help get every illegal out of the state of Arizona? Day one. Day one. You understand that mass deportations, which we voted for, does not happen if you do not have harmony at the state and the local level. We can fight in the courts and we can fight and all that stuff, but imagine the potential of this state if we had a governor that was willing to work with the President of the United States, that was willing to actually pick up the phone and work with Kristi Noem, and pick up the phone and work up with Border Patrol. Instead, it is a constant battle. It is a constant fight. And this is, again, goes back to a fundamental question, which is that this state is, for all of us, our home. I grew up in Illinois. Who else grew up in Illinois? Anybody? Yeah, Crook County, exactly. Fun thing about being from Illinois is we have term limits in Illinois. It's 1 term in office, 1 term in jail. It's unlike most states. And if you think elections are bad here in Arizona, go to Chicago. But I will say, Chicago does count their ballots quicker than Maricopa County. So it's true. We're going to fix that too, right, Justin? We're fixing that. Justin Heap, he's doing a great job. Justin's fighting hard. He's doing great. But this state is the best of America for so many reasons, which is that almost everybody here came here for a reason. There are, of course, Andy Biggs' family has been here probably for 5 or 6 generations. Tyler's like a 9th generation Arizona before air conditioning. However, I came here because I saw the best of America. It was not a place like Georgia, and I like Georgia or North Carolina, but you know what happens when you go to Atlanta? They say, well, what college did you go to? Who's your dad? What family do you come from? It's very ancestral. It's very like, where did you come from? It's very protective. And then all of a sudden I showed up to Scottsdale, I show up to Phoenix, people say, well, what do you do? And I like that question a lot more, because this state's about doing stuff. This state's about building. This state is about building families and building businesses, building communities. You see, this state is so unique. Only in Arizona are you able to experience the 110 beautiful sun in July. As I always say to Andy, praise God for the heat, because it keeps the California libs away. I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you. It builds character and it builds strength, and it is the greatest repellent of San Francisco purple-haired migration imaginable. Only in Arizona are you able to experience that. And then in the afternoon, go to the Grand Canyon and see God's majesty. Go up to Page, Arizona. Go to Payson, go to Prescott, go down. Well, you have to go to Tucson. We'll talk about that later. But you go to, I'm kidding. We're going to make Pima County great again, right? I'm kidding. We love all the parts of Arizona. I'm kidding. I'm giving you a hard time. There's something special about this state. And it's not a coincidence that all the drama unfolds here, that, we're 10,000 votes short, or 18,000 votes short, or 20,000. It just seems as if everything matters more in the state of Arizona. And that's one of the reasons why we've picked Turning Point to be the headquarters. Understand, Turning Point, we could be anywhere. We could be in Denver, we could be in Atlanta, we could be in Charlotte, we could be in Miami. We have the pick of the litter of any city in the country. And we have decided consciously to double and triple down on this state because this state is home. And this state is the state where I am raising my kids because there's this unique opportunity here. And don't tell Byron Donalds this. And don't tell anyone from Florida, but this is going to be the new Florida, and we're going to make Arizona like Florida. We're going to make it more conservative, more free, lower taxes, and no humidity. We have so many untapped assets in this state. We have land that could be developed. We have an incredible AI boom that is ready to happen. We have entrepreneurial people. We are now seeing this happen in real time. Understand, in 2020, we had about 100,000 more registered Republicans and Democrats in the state. Now, as Eli Crane said, it's nearly 330,000 more registered Republicans than Democrats in the state. This state is getting redder. However, despite it getting redder, this is the wake-up call. That's why this journey continues. We have 5 big problems in this state, and it's not going to happen in 1 year. We have a Democrat governor, we have a Democrat secretary of state, we have a Democrat attorney general, and 2 Democrat senators. And let me tell you right now, we at Turning Point Action, Turning Point PAC are ready to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and run the gauntlet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's only going to happen if we do the work. Because we have this alignment, a state that Trump wins by 200,000 votes. All of a sudden, we have 2 Democrat senators, and we have a Democrat governor and secretary of state. We're going to make 2026 too big to rig. And we're going to do it every single year. And that brings us to my friend Andy. Because what I love most about Andy is that, as was said previously, he could be doing anything. This guy is disciplined, he is focused, and what do you want as a politician more than anything else? You want an astronaut? Let me give you a break. No. What you want, what I want in my governor is I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry that he's going to flake out to some sort of influence, some sort of lobbyist. Because Andy picked the biggest fights in D.C. And he's been consistent, and we know it. He has been a tried and true conservative when the heat was the most intense. And also, I believe in a contrarian way that if you actually want to win the governorship in 2026, if you nominate a moderate, a lot of people they're going to stay at home. If you want to keep this Trump movement going, we need someone that is more like President Donald Trump and the MAGA movement, not just another like, well, this person can win a straw poll at the Paradise Valley Country Club. That's fine. That's great. Go run for city council. We want a conservative as the governor of Arizona. I'll say this in closing, everybody. As I travel the country, when I come back to Arizona, I always have a smile on my face. The beauty, the grandeur, what God has blessed us with in this state, the people and the community, it is larger than life. This election is a long time out. This is unusual, kind of doing a rally like this early, but it's necessary. You know why it's necessary? To set the record straight. It's necessary to tell the story the right way. Because if we just kind of sat on our laurels, even though the election was like 7 months ago, and we allowed a different narrative to be formed, well then all of us, honestly, we would see this beautiful state and this moment slip away from us. Instead, we have a very clear goal. We want to make this, Arizona, the model for the rest of the country. The grassroots are on fire, and that means this summer getting involved and knocking on doors where appropriate. It means this fall, this winter, support Andy in any way you possibly can. Donate $5, host a fundraiser, host a friend-raiser, get involved with Turning Point Action, get involved with Turning Point PAC, and then it culminates to once he wins the primary, which with all of your help he will, then we need to have every energy focused together to defeat what might be America's most unimpressive and worst governor, Katie Hobbs, and retire her as governor of this state. And I want to say thank you for all of you that pray for us at Turning Point, that support us, that understand what we go through, from the death threats to the backlash to the censorship to the condemnation. It's all worth it. Because this 10-year journey that we have been in, that started at the Phoenix Convention Center, and now I look at you guys in the Biltmore, which is another chapter we're all going to remember, is the ride of a life. It really is. And together, we stay focused, we tell the right story, the narrative is straight. On election night in 2026, which feels like a long time away, but boy, it's going to be here just like this. We are going to be celebrating that my friend Andy Biggs is the next governor of the state of Arizona. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Andy Biggs, the next governor of State 48.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you. Hey. Woo. Thank you. See?
Thank you so much for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
Do we support Andy Biggs, everybody? Vote Andy Biggs, baby.
Thanks, Charlie. Thank you. Wow. Are you tired of winning yet? Wow. Has Donald Trump begun to usher in the new golden era for America? Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? We're going to usher in the new golden era for Arizona. We're going to fix this thing up. We're going to fix this thing up. You know, I have to tell you, I'm so excited to be here. I feel the energy in this room. It's awesome. You guys look beautiful. And that's the way it is. If you're voting for Biggs, you are a beautiful person. That's just the way it is. You know, and I got to tell you, right now, I'm thinking of our friend Katie Hobbs. So, you know, we've never seen a governor quite like Katie Hobbs, have we? In fact, as a matter of fact, we really haven't seen Katie Hobbs. The only time we hear from her is when she's going to veto legislation that is so good, that would be beneficial and helpful to the state. She says, no, I don't think I want to do that. We're not quite sure what she's saying. But here's the deal. I want to say thank you to each one of you for coming out here today. As Charlie said, we're talking 16 months before we get to the election, the primary election anyway. But quite frankly, the war is still ongoing, right? It is still ongoing. I used to do a little work at the international, I'm embarrassed to say this, I used to represent some groups at the United Nations. I was representing the good side, though, because I was trying to get the UN to stop doing bad crap. And what would happen is we would get excited because we kept something bad out of the document or that they were proposing. And we would be so excited as conservatives. We'd go out to wherever we were, whatever city, and we'd have a celebration. Now, I don't drink, so everybody else would have a celebration, and I would be the designated driver. But here's the deal. While we were doing that, the left at the UN would spend the night coming back so that next morning they'd have that language in there. They would have undermined everything we had done the previous day. That's why what you're doing, you're here 16 months out, because we cannot sleep on this at all. We have to keep taking every step, every move, every thought, every idea, so we fight continually because the country is at stake. The country is at stake. So I think of my friend Charlie Kirk on what has happened with TPUSA, TP Action, and all of their entities, and all of you who are here. And I say thank you. Thank you. Arizona was the state that provided the biggest victory for Donald Trump in the battleground states. This state. Between Charlie and his team and you, we gave Donald Trump a massive victory. And so when I talked to President Trump on the phone or in person, he always asks me how Arizona's doing. He loves this state. Andy, we got to have Arizona. Yes. He does have to have Arizona, so I thank all of you. And then I give thanks to my friends and my family, and I consider you my friends. But I want to just say thanks to my family who've given so much by way of sacrifice. I appreciate what you've done for me to allow me to serve. But I also want to thank my guests from out of state. They're pretty awesome. So I want to go over Burgess Owens. This guy's a Super Bowl champ and friend. He had a great NFL career, and he's now a great congressman. And I told him afterwards, he's giving you some of the nicknames they had there. I call him the delivery man. He is the delivery man. Lauren Boebert from Colorado. Stalwart conservative voice, been with me and some of these others in every conservative fight we've had in Congress. And she's done it fearlessly. And I also want to thank my friend, who was my first friend in Congress, who fought with me to defend President Trump from the very beginning. Because you remember, they came after President Trump right from the start, from the second he came down the golden escalator, right? Well, Matt Gaetz from Florida I hope you don't mind. I'm going to share just a quick little story. And this is it. So you do mind? I'm sorry. Here's the deal. We got elected. We weren't even, we hadn't made it through the general yet, but we were invited. We had to go back to D.C. and we go there. And we're supposed to go to a dinner with Paul Ryan. I knew that was coming. That's why I paused. So we get into the cab, the Uber, and Matt gets in the front seat, because that's the way he is. He wants to be in the front seat. And I'm in the back seat, just sitting there in my suit. The lady says to me, where are you going? And we tell her, and she says, oh, that's a really expensive restaurant. And in my mind, I'm thinking, Paul Ryan's probably not paying for this. I don't know who's paying for it. Makes me nervous. But anyways, the taxpayer probably. You all, thanks for paying for that first dinner, folks. I appreciate it. So the lady driver says, hey, that place costs an arm and a leg. And she points to me in the back seat and says to Matt, you ought to have that guy pay for it. He looks rich. And Gaetz says to me today, he says, that's before she saw you wearing Crocs on your feet. So Matt Gaetz, what a great guy. Love him to death. Then a longtime friend of mine that you got to hear today from, he's the prototype of an American sheriff. Every time President Trump talks to me about him, he says, that lamb guy, he looks like he came out of Central Casting. So I'm so grateful for Mark being here with us today. And another guy you know and I know is a fearless fighter, and he's been fighting in Congress longer than I have been. He's a great guy. You heard him, Mr. Paul Gosar from Mojave County. Great guy. And I'll just say this. Did you know what a rock star we were getting when Eli Crane got elected to Congress? Who knew? Who knew? This guy was a Navy SEAL. He was a sniper. And yet on the floor of the House of Representatives, he's even more intimidating. He is a quiet leader, fearless, very direct, and standing up for what's right. And that's a great team that I had here today. But I also thank each of you. How many of you came in from outside of Maricopa County? Wow. What an honor to have you here, all of you here today. So I want to segue into this real quickly. You know that President Trump is reinstituting federalism. What he's doing is he said, no more Department of Education. No more Department of Education. And there is no authority under the Constitution for the Department of Education to begin with, right? So then he appoints Lee Zeldin to be his EPA administrator, and Lee Zeldin has gotten rid of 31 major rules to devolve that back to the states, so we get to govern ourselves as states. And President Trump is shrinking the size of the federal government footprint. The bureaucracy is trying to shrink that. And what that means is, and by the way, I did talk to Secretary McMahon. I said, if you're getting rid of the Department of Education, you have to get rid of all the mandates and strings that go with it. We've got to be free to govern in Arizona. We have got to be free to govern for ourselves. And so it strikes me very interesting and very earnestly that President Trump is giving some of the sovereignty, some of the power back to the states. And that means we have got to have a strong conservative governor for the state of Arizona. We have got to lead this country back, and we can do it as a state that's governed freely, conservatively, with our prosperity, our freedoms, our rights protected under the Constitution, always at the foremost, always at the forefront of whatever we do. And with your help, I will be Arizona's next governor. And, thank you. Arizona will be the safest state in the country. We're going to eliminate the income tax in Arizona. And we will have the strongest border. There is no reason in the world why Arizona won't excel and be the leader in the country. Now, we had two other guests who appeared by video, my good friends, Byron Donalds from Florida, and Mike Lee from Utah. These are two conservative leaders. And I just want to say this about my good friend Byron, okay? I love the guy. I mean, and I love Mike too. I mean, I love them both. I don't want it getting back that I said I loved one, I didn't love the other. But I will tell you that with Byron, when I announced for governor, and then about a week or so later, he announced he was running for governor of Florida. This guy said copycat. That's right. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and I was grateful that Byron wanted to be like me. So I did tell Byron, I said, Byron, here's the deal, my good friend. You're going to win, I'm going to win, and about 90 days after we win, in particular me, you're going to see the taillights of Arizona screaming past Florida. We will be, the ideal was initially to be the Florida of the West, but we don't want to be just the Florida of the West. We want to be the most free, most prosperous, safest state in the union. And We want everybody to have a chance to prosper safely in this state, and that's what we're going to do. Yeah, property tax. Okay, we'll talk property tax in a minute. I didn't know this was going to be so interactive. This is great. And speaking of safety, well, we want to say thanks, first of all, to our veterans. Veterans in our active military. Thank you. Thank you very much. The sacrifices you and your families made have allowed us to live in a country that has the potential to be free. And we will be free again under this president and under my governorship, and this was going to happen. I also want to say, when we talk about public safety, I start thinking of the first responders. And thank you if you're a first responder. We're grateful to you. Thankful to all of you. But what we're going to do is, when I'm governor, we're going to make sure our first responders, our beautiful, marvelous Department of Public Safety and others have all the resources they need to make sure the state is safe and secure, and that the bad apples and bad guys who want to come across our southern border or our western border, we want to make sure that they know that this is no safe haven for them. This is not, as Katie Hobbs would have you believe, or that the Pima County leadership would have you believe, this is not a sanctuary state. This is not a sanctuary state. So we're gonna help all Arizonans. The way that I propose, one way that we're going to do that is to eliminate the income tax. And what's going to happen is, with you keeping more money in your pocket, and the big beautiful bill, and the tax package there that's going to benefit people from every economic demographic, this state is going to zoom in prosperity. There are businesses that fly over us to go to Texas or Florida because of our income tax. They will come here. And we will see more jobs available, and this is going to be an economic powerhouse of a state. Strongest border security. We're going to have a real border security task force. We actually had one, and this governor, one of her first ideas was to get rid of it, which she did. And then, I get it. And we're riding on the same pony, my friend. We are. So, once I got in the race, the governor announced she was going to reinstitute a border security task force, but it's weak sauce. It is like a wreath that you put on your door at Christmas time, and then you leave it up all year long. After a while, it loses meaning. And honey, I'll get to that next week. I'm going to take it down. I really mean it this time. We're going to work with the feds. So a great bill was introduced recently. By the way, this is already federal law. But this bill said if you're a jurisdiction and you have custody of an illegal alien, criminal illegal alien, and ICE comes to you and gives you a detainer, you gotta give it to them. That's all the bill said. Just kind of a codification of federal law. And what do you think Governor Hobbs did? She vetoed that bill, common sense bill. Well, we're gonna fix that, because I'm gonna work with the legislature, and within the first week of me being elected, we're going to get that bill out of the House, out of the Senate, on my desk. I'm gonna sign it, and that'll be the law of the land. We're gonna have our own border czar. I've already talked to somebody who I believe will be a great border czar. So Arizona will have the strongest border security in the nation. We're going to work with our sheriffs, our tribes, our local law enforcement officers, our magnificent DPS, and we will prevent the cartels from their evil human, child, and drug trafficking, which is a destructive plague in Arizona and America. We're going to stop that, put an end to that. I was looking out here and I see my good friend, Art Del Cueto, who's a retired Border Patrol agent. Thanks for being here, Art. But thanks to all the active CBP agents, thanks to our ICE agents, and those who are working to protect our state and nation. And I will tell you this, when the left-wing media portrays ICE agents, and Democrats in Congress call them the Gestapo or Nazis, nothing could be further than the truth. We need our ICE agents and our CBP because they will enforce the law, which under the Biden administration and under this current governor is not being enforced. We've got to enforce the law. So I just had to digress for just a second. President Trump always calls this the weave. You kind of get off your top. You're going to weave and you're going to come back around. You're not rambling because you are going to get back to the point. And I'm going to weave here because I happen to serve in Congress right now. And I will tell you that I serve on 2 committees with a whole host of subcommittees. And the committee chair, on my committee, which is Judiciary and Oversight and Government Accountability, we have the new Democrat spokesperson, Jasmine Crockett. Yeah. I know I've committed major sins and transgressions sometime in my life. I may not know exactly what they are, but I must have because I have Jasmine Crockett on both of my committees. And even on a subcommittee or 2. And I'm just grateful for one thing. I'm grateful that she's the new face of the Democrat Party. We have some great elected officials here with us. State representatives and state senators. If you are here in the state legislature, well, you're not here in the state legislature, but if you serve in the state legislature and you're here, please stand up so we can recognize you. Glad to have you here. Thank you for your service. Ralph and David and Joe, and you got Justin Heap. Justin, you used to be in the state legislature. You're now the county recorder guy. Thank you for being here. Thanks for what you do. We've got Brad Miller, Pinal County Attorney. Glad to have you here. Wendy Rogers, how you doing, Wendy? You guys in the state legislature gave us some great bills. You gave us the ICE bill I've talked about, and you gave us another bill that I think is really pertinent, and that is you gave us an election integrity bill. And that bill, how many of you would like to know, this is Mark Stewart from the county, how many of you would like to know who won the election the night of the election? Yeah, me too. Me too. And as a guy whose first primary for Congress, I ended up winning by 9 votes, and it took multiple weeks to get there. I would have liked to know the night of. Yeah, and by the way, everybody that was in my district that elected me by 9 votes, For the next 2 years, everybody that was there told me, it was my vote that put you over the top. And who was I to disagree? It's 9 votes, man. What do you want? So we had a pretty good election bill. It mirrored Florida's election integrity law. And it got up to the governor's desk, Governor Katie Hobbs. Katie Hobbs. I was thinking, I don't want to weave anymore. Okay, I won't weave. I was thinking of Joe Biden for a second and Katie Hobbs and how there's something very similar to them. But anyway, so Katie Hobbs decided to veto that bill, and she vetoed the election integrity bill. Do you realize that now we're going to have to do it again? So I want to tell you how this is going to work. When I'm elected in November of 2026 as governor of Arizona, we have a couple of paid people right up front here. It's very good. I'm just teasing. We didn't pay anybody. But on the day after the election, what happens is the House and the Senate elect their leadership. And so they're going to elect a new speaker and a new Senate president. And when that happens, I'm going to insist that those 2 new leaders meet with me for dinner the day after the election, right? And we're going to go over that agenda of all the bills that need to be pre-filed. Because you can do that here. Can't do that in Congress, but you can do it here. All of those bills, and that includes the ICE bill, the election integrity bill, an education protection bill. All of those bills, and they will know what's going to go on. And then when we get there and get sworn in the day of, in January, we're going to do it at 8:30 in the morning. We're going to not have a lot of long speeches like this one here. And what we're going to do is we're going to adjourn that at 9:30 so that the House and the Senate by 10 a.m. will be into their committees with these pre-filed bills, and away we can go. And they're going to have to do it first and a second read. They're going to have to do it first and a second read, but what we're going to do is push the pedal to the metal so that by the end of that first week, I'm signing all of these bills. And we're going to make it a sprint. And here's why that works. Have you seen Congress? Have you seen what's happening with the Democrat Party? Donald Trump has come in and shown us that if you are focused, principled, and actually have an agenda, and you have people working with you that will work with you, you can do all kinds of things very quickly. And what does that do to the other side? They become discombobulated. It's like, go look this up, the Vincent Price movie, Wax Museum. Their faces, just as a spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, all the wax figures' faces melt. That's what's happening. The Democrats' faces are melting. They don't know what to do. But we do. We do, because we are going to govern. We're going to get our agenda through, and we're going to govern and make this state prosperous, free, safe again. So, and I'll tell you, one of the guys that I've worked with as the architect of that, getting those bills up there, is Warren Peterson, the state Senate president, and I support him fully. I support him fully. All right. I just want to tell you a couple of President Trump stories, because you just can't get out of this type of thing without telling a President Trump story. I am so pleased to call President Trump my friend, my ally. He's endorsed me. I will say this. There's a difference between being endorsed by President Trump and being endorsed by President Trump and having his personal cell phone number. And I got it. And we have a kind of a mutual respect. And we have more than respect, we have friendship. So, back when the Washington Nationals had a decent baseball team, during Trump's first administration, one of the big things that Matt Gaetz and I did together is we were invited by President Trump to go sit in his box at the World Series. That was cool. I'll just tell you, that was really cool. But that's not the highlight of knowing President Trump. Knowing President Trump and working with President Trump, when we have gone out and we have fought together to get policy through that will benefit the United States of America and our citizens in Arizona, that has been awesome. And he loves this state and he loves this country. Otherwise, nobody in their right mind would put up with what he's put up with. And they've come after him nonstop. And it's been my pleasure to say, I've been with him at every step of the way. So, I will just tell you that I love this state. I was born and raised in this state. And this is my home and it's your home. And I will be a governor for the entire state. I saw some folks from Graham County. I'll be down in Graham County. I've been down in Graham County since I announced. I'll be in Yavapai, La Paz, Yuma, Navajo, Apache, Santa Cruz, Pima, Greenlee, Gila, Mojave. I'll be in Pinal. I've been all over the place. Coconino, I'll be in Coconino, yeah. I wasn't, you probably didn't know if I was going to say that, but I did. So I will tell you this. I thank you for being here. I thank, again, Charlie and his great team for putting this on. But I think we're going to win this, and we're going to work our tails off like everything depends on us, and we're going to trust in God as if everything depends on him, because it does. With God's help, all things are possible. Will you keep fighting with me for freedom in America? Will you keep fighting to turn this state back to freedom-loving red? I know I will never stop fighting with you. And are you ready for Arizona's new golden age? Let's do it. And let's remember these great words. As he died to make men holy, let us live to make men free. This state will be the freest, safest, most prosperous state in the country. God bless each of you. God bless America. And I pray heaven's blessings, God's blessings on this, the greatest state in the country, the state of Arizona. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Great to see you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Thank you.